Hi, this is Danielle Daws with a tutorial for AnnaBelle stamps. Today I'm looking at Versamark Resist, which is just a form of resisting colour, but by using Versamark ink on glossy cardstock. So you can see that I'm inking up my stamp quite heavily with my Versamark, and the stamp I'm using is Backgrounds by Design number 6. Because the stamp is the size that it is, I'll need to stamp it 3 times to fill the entire panel. And I have a trick for that I'll show you in a moment, because you'll notice very quickly that it's very difficult to see the Versamark on the glossy cardstock, particularly on camera. I'm going to pick it up here and see if I can get a good shot there to show you. You can see just there the shine of the Versamark, and so it's very difficult to see through the clear block. So I've just got some post-it notes that I've attached very lightly to the back, lined up exactly where the bottom of the previous image is, just so I can line up my block to make it all flow nicely. So you can see there that that's worked beautifully. There you go. And so now I'll move down my post-it notes just so that I can repeat that. You do want to be careful not to accidentally put your thumb or your finger on top of your glossy cardstock, because you really don't want to add fingerprints to what you've got there. So just stamping that for the final time, and I'll have my panel completed with Versamark. Now you can leave this overnight to dry. If you're impatient like I am, then you'll just want to take a few seconds to heat set it with a heat gun. It really doesn't take too long to do, it dries fairly quickly. So now I've got my panel completed, I need to decide what colour. This is a sampler that I made up using some glossy cardstock, because I got really tired of trying to figure out what colour I wanted and how it was going to turn out, because the colours don't turn out exactly the way they do on ordinary cardstock. So I'm using spiced marmalade here. You'll see in a moment that the colour is much lighter than what it appears to be right here. So I'm inking it quite heavily, and then with some paper towel I'm just going to buff that off. And you can see there that it's a much lighter colour. It's absolutely beautiful colour, but it's the ink, the ordinary ink colour isn't a good indication of how it's going to be on your glossy cardstock, which is why I made a sampler in the first place. So you can see you end up with quite a bit of ink on your paper towel, and that's fine. But you do want to make sure that you clean your work surface, because you definitely don't want to have all that excess ink ending up on any other parts of your work. So I'm just using one last paper towel just to make sure I've got all the excess off. And that's it. That's as easy as it is to do Versamark Resist. So just adding a little bit further, I'm going to emboss a sentiment using a sentiment from Lovebirds. So I've just used a static pad there to make sure that there's no extra moisture on the panel before using Versamark to ink up my sentiment. So just making sure that the placement is right, and then I'll use the AnnaBelle Stamps ebony embossing powder. I really like the AnnaBelle Stamps embossing powder. It's beautiful and glossy, really easy to work with, and I've never had a problem with using it at all. It's just really, really lovely to work with. So you don't need to sprinkle too much on there, and just give it a light tap, and every time it works beautifully. So you can see there heating it up, and it's becoming very glossy. So I made 2 cards from this tutorial. The first one on the left is the one that you just saw me do. The other one is just with a leftover piece. Thanks so much for watching.